Well, we also had the tragic news story this week of another car ramming. An Afghan asylum seeker rammed his car into a crowd of trade union protesters in Munich on Thursday morning, where he killed one and wounded at least 30. The police said that he drove past, he had like a white Mini Cooper, I think. He drove past a police car, he accelerated into the crowd. Police shot at the vehicle. They eventually got the driver. They arrested him. They found out he was this 24-year-old Afghan. He arrived in 2016. His asylum application was rejected. But the government, they decided, I guess, to be extra compassionate. They allowed him to stay. Leading up to the attack, he was sharing Islamist content online. He was known to the authorities for theft and drug offenses. And this is becoming a dangerous pattern in Germany. This terrorist attack comes a few weeks after an Afghan migrant stabbed a 2-year-old boy and a man in a knife attack against a kindergarten group. Comes from Afghanistan and decides he wants to murder kindergartners. 2 months before, you have a Saudi immigrant driving a car through a large crowd at a Christmas market in Magdeburg, killing 3, injuring a whole lot more. I mean, you can understand why Germans are upset. And of course, they've got an election now just over a week away. This is going to have an impact on that election. Mr. Fleury has talked again for years about these kind of attacks on Germany. And this is what he had to say about these terrorist attacks changing Europe. I think this was back in 2016, Kiev David.
But people ask, well, how do you fight this? Or will we ever win the war against Islamic terrorists? Those are questions that have been asked in just the recent incident, the recent attack. But I want to show you today that there is a nation that is going to lead in the destruction of radical Islam. And I'm going to show you also that there's an individual who's going to lead that charge and do a lot of damage in the process. Islamic terrorism is going to be defeated. And I'll show you in minuscule detail just how that's going to be done today, and also send you literature that will prove all of this to you and make it really very clear. It's not something that's hard and difficult to understand.
So a solution is coming to this very real problem of Islamist terror for Europe. I mean, you've got to think after these dribs and drabs of attacks. I mean, there have definitely been bigger attacks in the past, but it's just one after another. And Germans are saying, well, what is the solution? This leadership that we've had in charge for years aren't dealing with it. Well, there is going to be a solution. Great, but the person that is going to lead to the rise of a strongman that's going to do a whole lot of damage. And he's going to do a whole lot more than simply solve the problem of Islamist terror. I mean, here's what else Mr. Fleury had to say in that Kiev David. One more clip from it.
Now we know, and we've said and taught many times on this program about how Germany is the economic head of Europe. But the big problem is they don't have a real strong political head. Now it's mostly economic, although it's becoming more militaristic. And it is really that union has especially led by Germany, has a lot of power. And so they're still waiting for their leader to show some real strength and provide the leadership that is needed in these very great crises that they're facing.
They're waiting for a leader to come and show strength in these crises that is coming, and again, or that they're going through. And again, we're just over a week out from these elections. And you could see when Germany gets this strongman, the US may well cheer him. That President Trump and the people around him, you get a German strongman that starts dealing with radical Islam, that starts building up even more the German military. I mean, the German military has already had a big buildup and a massive turnaround, but he just does that even more faster and even more openly. Elon Musk is still cheering the rise of the Alternative for Deutschland in Germany. This political party that Dresden was this week, the anniversary of the bombing of Dresden. This party and many in Germany made a massive deal out of Dresden. And wars involve tragedy. You see that in Gaza. No one likes seeing pictures of destroyed buildings, but you have to go back and look at, well, what was the cause? Why did this happen? And Dresden is used to present a different image of World War II, one in which Germany is the victim. And they talk about the bombing of Dresden being unfair and Germany being unfairly victimized. This was massive for the AfD this week. They have a radically different view of World War II in which Germany wasn't the aggressor, they were the victim. And they say, well, we need to be, as their leader did at one point, we need to be proud of the achievements of our soldiers in both world wars. We need to be proud of what the SS did. They're not absolutely a criminal organization. That's what another of their leaders said. So this, as that very disturbing political party rises, and you have someone not from the AfD, I'm not necessarily saying they're going to take over, but you see that spirit rising in Germany. United States, absolutely, you can see them cheering that. And you have that, great, we have a muscular Europe with a strong man, and they're dealing with radical Islam. But the Bible warns, once Europe is strong, they're going to turn against the United States, just like we heard from Mr. Armstrong when he was talking about those lovers. But Europe needs a strong leader. Germany sees the need for a strong leader in all of these attacks. But there isn't a strong leader on the ballot as they come up to these elections. And Austria, just this week, also gave us a preview of what could well happen within the German election. So they had elections all the way back in September. The far right one, the Freedom Party of Austria, this party that was founded by 2 former SS members, they came in first place, but they didn't have enough seats and enough of the vote to govern by themselves. They needed a coalition partner. And this has just caused politics in Austria to completely break down. Nobody wanted to work with the Freedom Party of Austria. So basically, everyone else who was not them got together and said, well, we're going to try and form our own coalition that excludes the Freedom Party. And it fell apart because they don't agree on anything. You've got the left, you've got the right, you've got a whole spectrum of different parties. They couldn't agree, didn't work. So that fell apart. Then you had the Freedom Party of Austria and then Austria's kind of mainline conservative party, their equivalent to the Republicans. They sat down and tried to hammer out a coalition. That fell apart this week. They said, no, we just can't do it. So we're 5 months out and no government from Austria. And now they're not sure what to do. They're still deciding. They could wait another 3 months and then hold new elections. So go even longer without a government. They could have a minority government. So a government very weak, very hard for them to get anything through parliament because they don't have a majority there. They could try once again at forming a coalition, and we could wait a few more months to see if that succeeds or fails. And even then, it's probably not going to be strong. They're talking about a temporary government of experts. We'll just get some people, they weren't elected, unelected people. We'll put them in charge because we can't get a government out of what we had elected. And you look at politics in Austria and Germany are very similar. Freedom Party of Austria is very similar to the Alternative for Deutschland. You could have very easily exactly the same dynamic in Germany in 2 weeks' time after their elections. And they have these attacks. There are these terrorist attacks going on. There's pressure from Donald Trump to build a military. There's war with Russia. Europe and Germany see they desperately need a strongman. And we have talked for years about the way these kind of coalition negotiations will lead for a strongman. And as far back as 1991, Mr. Fleury wrote in The Trumpet, if a real crisis develops, will the Germans call for a new Führer? Your Bible says that is going to happen. This crisis will probably be triggered by an economic collapse in the United States. So Europe, there's a lot of economic pressure in Europe and Germany. I want to write a bit more on that next week. But he's pointed to, for years, the way that you could have this man take power through coalition negotiations. We've got a compilation of several times that he said this on the Key of David that we can play for you. Now,
he's not going to come in by, let's say, a democratic process. He's going to come in and use flatteries and sort of tweak the democratic process. It says here something like that, and perhaps take advantage of a weak coalition. But he's going to come in by flatteries. So God sees him, well, not the same way the people see him, but he actually gains that power, hijacks that European superpower by flatteries. He apparently puts together some kind of a small coalition, and that's how he moves into power. I mean, he is unusually adept at flattery. You have to be very intelligent to be able to deceive people in high places with flattery. And he does it magnificently. Well, he was never voted into the office, but he came in, got control of all that power through deceit and flatteries. Now remember, this is an end-time book, and this is an end-time prophecy. It's going to happen again in this end time. A man is going to come, and through deceit and flatteries is going to get control of the Holy Roman Empire and its 10 toes, or 10 kings, and not by voting. Even though that is their system today, it is not going to, he's going to come in another way.
And Mr. Flory's spoken about this so much. We could have easily put together way more clips on talking about coming through a weak coalition. And that statement about coming in through flatteries, coming through a weak coalition, it comes right out of Daniel 11 and verse 21. And the book of Daniel again and again says that this is an end-time book. God even told Daniel, you're not going to understand this. It's sealed for the time of the end. And yeah, some of the book of Daniel does describe things that did happen anciently. I mean, it talks about Alexander the Great, for example. And what I'm about to read to you, a lot of people can see it matches perfectly with the history of an Antiochus living in the Middle East hundreds of years ago. But God says again and again, the primary purpose for Daniel is for the end time. Jesus Christ himself goes back and references some of these passages from Daniel that talk about Antiochus, and he says, well, it's going to happen again. The most important fulfillment of this is still to come. That's what this is primarily about. And Daniel 11 and verse 21 says, and in his estate shall stand up by a vile person to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And you start to look at what this all means about honor of the kingdom and by flatteries in the Hebrew, and it's like, well, he doesn't come in legitimately. It's not like he stands as, I'm the leader of this political party, and he wins the election, and he becomes this elected leader. He comes in by a different way. And so Mr. Flory said for years that, like complex coalition, okay, we need a strong man. We need a strong leader. We've got all of these crises, but there's no majority. There's no strong leader on the ballot. We can't get one democratically. That's going to pave the way for this strong man to come in. And Austria could be a preview of what we're going to see in Germany, where they're like, well, maybe we need to get some unelected experts in power here because we can't get democracy to work. Watch for that to happen in the German elections. Watch for the rise of that strongman. That is just an absolutely critical Bible prophecy to be watching. And if you want more detail on that, we've got a free book, A Strong German Leader is Imminent, that you can get on our website, thetrumpet.com. We'd be more than happy to send you your own free copy, or you can read that online, and that will show you why we're watching for a strong German leader. I mean, I've given you the briefest overview of just one or two scriptures today, but don't take my word for it. Prove it from the Bible for yourself that we need to watch for this strong leader in Europe and that he plays this critical role in end-time Bible prophecy. And that booklet will help you do that.